The purge continues within the NASCAR Xfinity garage as it was announced that Chip Ganassi Racing would cease operations of its number 42 team in 2019. This comes months after the team announced plans to field the ride for prospect Ross Chastain, and the ride would be sponsored by DC Solar, a huge financial investor within the sport of NASCAR. For the organization based out of Concord, North Carolina, the Ganassi Xfinity Series program has fielded full-time campaigns for a few notable drivers. During 2005 and 2006, the team fielded the number 41 discount tire Dodge for prospect Reed Sorensen. His statistics behind the wheel were decent as he netted 2 wins, 17 top 5 finishes, 33 top 10s, and he finished top 10 in the standings for both seasons. And Sorensen was ultimately promoted to the number 41 Target Dodge in the NASCAR Cup Series, but unfortunately he could never hit the bullseye during his 5-year full-time career. During that time frame, the team also funded entries for developing drivers and prospects such as David Stremme, Dario Franchitti, and Brian Clausen, which the 3 prospects ultimately struggled in the sport of NASCAR. After a brief hiatus, Chip Ganassi partnered with Turner Scott Motorsports to field a competitive car for transcendent talent Kyle Larson. During his one and only full-time campaign, Larson impressed with his talent behind the wheel, and he nearly beat Kyle Busch during the spring Bristol race. Ultimately, Kyle Larson was promoted to the team's misfortunate number 42 car in the Cup Series, and he has carried that car to relevance over the past 5 seasons. 4 seasons later, it was announced during the fall that Ross Chastain would get a chance to race in the leech-infested 42 machine during the Darlington, Las Vegas, and Richmond races in the second half of the season. Just to sum it up, the Watermelon King greatly overachieved driving for JD Motorsports in Xfinity, as he was able to qualify for the playoffs and net a solid average finish of 15th. Also during the 2018 season, he competed in 33 events with Premium Motorsports in the NASCAR Cup Series, in which he netted an average finish of 28th. In terms of the equipment he was driving, that was a great accomplishment to pull off, and his average finish was impressive to say the least. Anyways, his Xfinity stint last season with CGR was a massive success, as he led 270 laps in his 3 starts, and he was able to win at Las Vegas, and he entered the playoffs with some much needed momentum. While he was ultimately eliminated in the round of 12, he came close to advancing to the next round driving for JD Motorsports, and even outpointed JGR driver Brandon Jones in the playoffs until the final race at Homestead. Eventually, his performance in the ride was rewarded with an opportunity of a lifetime, driving the number 42 Chevrolet Camaro full-time for the 2019 season and compete for the NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship. In addition, DC Solar would fund the entire schedule for the Watermelon King. Now, the latter part of the announcement was rather sketchy, as early last year, former driver Brennan Poole filed a lawsuit for a breach of contract, as it was alleged that Ganassi had directed DC Solar away from the Xfinity program in order to provide sponsorship for Kyle Larson's number 42 team, as they were in a sponsorship hole because of Target and Brian Cornell. While they screwed over Brennan Poole, it was at least satisfying to see DC Solar invest money into a skilled wheelman in NASCAR. The future is bright for Chip Ganassi Racing and Ross Chastain. Absolutely nothing will go wrong at this point. That is, until some even sketchier business within DC Solar took place last December. The FBI raided the home of DC Solar CEO Jeff Karpoff, as the businessman was suspected of tax evasion in the United States. A few weeks later, we lead to the announcement that Chip Ganassi is indeed ceasing operations to its 42 Xfinity Series team. With DC Solar going under, it ultimately means one thing regarding his solar business.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Unfortunately, this is just another circumstance where corporate greed comes back to haunt NASCAR and once again Chip Ganassi Racing. Last season, it was Brian Cornell leaving a race team that won 4 races with the red Target colors on the hood and providing a financial hole for the 42 team. Now, while I understand Cornell's move as a business, they wanted to get into the soccer market, they wanted to renovate other stores, they didn't need to go cold turkey on its NASCAR program. I think a decent 8 to 10 races would have allowed Target to pursue other marketing options as well as to earn future success in NASCAR. After all, their sponsorship was valued at $12 million, and they were loyal with drivers such as Reed Sorensen and Juan Pablo Montoya running 25th place 2 laps down every week. So it was absolutely ridiculous when they pulled out of that ride, even if NASCAR's TV ratings were going down. This time around, it not only puts Chip Ganassi in a sponsorship hole for Kyle Larson, but it ultimately screws Ross Chastain out of a top-tier ride. This move parallels similar to Nature's Bakery a few seasons ago, if you guys remember, as both companies were committed sponsors within the series. That is, until both companies got into sketchy business practices and were both shown the door a few weeks before the season starts. While Nature's Bakery put a burden on Danica Patrick's number 10 car, I think the 42 team will have an easier time filling the void. After all, sponsor McDonald's has wanted more races on Kyle Larson's Chevrolet Camaro, which could be an advantage going forward. Unfortunately, for the NASCAR Xfinity Series program, they are out of luck. Even if they would have tried to field a team for Chastain, I doubt a sponsor would commit to a large amount down the road. It was just the sad reality of the 21st century of business in NASCAR. While DC Solar getting raided by the FBI wasn't NASCAR's fault, we have to keep beating this point to death. Something has to change with NASCAR's sponsorship level. When you look at other sports leagues such as the NFL, MLB, and the NHL, the best players are drafted and given a chance within a professional organization. If you win the Heisman Trophy or become the MVP of the Little League World Series, you will have a great opportunity to prosper in that league. NASCAR, meanwhile, differs greatly from those other sports leagues because of the high cost to race. If you want to get a ride on the tour, you either need family ties to an organization or have a lifetime fortune to fund your career. We see this throughout the NASCAR Xfinity Series as drivers such as Michael Annett, Austin Cindric, and Brandon Jones are driving some of the best equipped cars in the field, despite being mediocre talents at best. Meanwhile, we have simply talented drivers such as Brett Moffitt and now Ross Chastain are stuck fighting for their careers and hoping a sponsor takes a chance on their racing future. In order to prosper and further evolve in this 21st century, the series needs to cut costs on the racing product and ensure that their top prospects keep climbing the ladder to success. Imagine if race teams costed 3-4 times less than they do now. That would have provided Chip Ganassi some more breathing room to field the race team, and more than likely the team could convince sponsors such as McDonald's and Credit One to fund a handful of races at a cheaper cost. Luckily, I think NASCAR sees the issues in the series and they are actively trying to correct these scenarios from happening again. Hopefully the series gets a spending cap before the 2022 season at the latest, as it would greatly help the talented drivers get the opportunities they deserve in the sport of NASCAR. So the bottom line, this is just another case of a corporation getting affected, and it ultimately comes back to bite NASCAR and one of its race teams. It's a shame because the 42 for Chip Ganassi Racing was a top race team in the NASCAR Xfinity Series garage. And as for Ross Chastain, I highly doubt another big break pops up for the Watermelon King. Now sure, Ganassi still believes in his driving ability, and he could possibly get that one car within the near future. More than likely, however, that chance will face a challenge because DC Solar, the sponsor that took a chance on him, gave him a ride, is now gone and vanished forever. As for next season, he will return to his seat at Premium Motorsports in the 15, getting lapped by Kevin Harvick more than likely on a weekly basis while outperforming the equipment to the best of his ability. More than likely, he could also return to the NASCAR Xfinity Series with a lower-funded organization as well. He will likely lack a top-funded team, however, because he does not bring a shiny penny to the table. Yeah, have fun in 30th place, Chastain. You may be a transcendent talent, but you cannot provide for that top-tier ride in the NASCAR Cup Series. Down to the scrub levels of the sport you go. I'm looking at you, Dale Jr. Come on, let's sign Ross Chastain to the number 9 car. Move Zane Smith to the 88 part-time. Put Ross Chastain in the 9 with sponsorship from Nationwide Children's and Exalta. And then ultimately, when Jimmy Johnson hangs up his helmet, possibly in 2020, then Ross Chastain can get that ride and we'll have a dynasty at Hendrick Motorsports. Please, it would be a great opportunity and Ross Chastain would live up to the moment. I guarantee it. So anyways, this is NASCAR Racing Fan 2015 signing out. And just remember, life's a beach and then you drive.
It was awesome.